All right. Hey, Robbie, how you doing?
All right, Sam. Nice to meet you. I watched one of your podcasts just earlier today. You're full of life. Yeah.
Well, man, thank you so much. And if you watch my podcast earlier today, I think you know what's coming. That thing we
Oh my
always
God.
do.
I'm going to sit back just in case you hit me with something that I can't cope with.
Well, here we are. We have to start every podcast with the over-the-top intro because whenever we have great guests such as yourself, we got to butter their bread a little bit. So let me get into it. I have to. All the way from Glasgow, Scotland. My next guest is an award-winning filmmaker. He is also a poet, novelist, playwright, screenwriter. You may know him from such projects as The Right Bus, Dracula on Holiday, Number Runner, and what we are here to talk about today, Nessie. Now available on video on demand and streaming, whatever major platforms are available to you. Robbie Moffat, welcome to the podcast.
And you, Sam. Glad to be here. Yeah.
Robbie, I got a chance to watch Nessie, and it was a good film. I love it. It was full of heart. It made you feel good. I'm very curious. How did this idea come about?
Well, I'm Scottish. We're just full of ways of getting the tourists in. We've got to get the tourists to come. We need those spondulas, those monies. So they started in the 6th century with St. Columba. They thought this place is underpopulated. We need to get people to come here. So also we like a bit of fantasy, Peter Pan and all that stuff created out of Scotland. So come on, you've heard of Nessie. You grew up with
Yeah,
that those whispers in your ears, along with Bigfoot and stuff like that. Yeah. So other places have got Yeti. You've got Nessie. Yeah.
makes sense. Makes sense.
Yeah.
And when you watch a film like this, it connects on so many levels because, like you said, you do have that fantasy aspect. But one of the things I do like about this, and I'm gonna word this very carefully, mainly because I don't want to spoil it. It's like you put a lot of realism there because when you bring people in about the YouTube elements or the Mythbusters or just um the novelty of, hey, I shouldn't be giving all my money to a thing we don't even know that's real. I mean, what made you try to connect those dots for like fantasy, as you say, but made it more modern day? Because I would probably think those same thoughts if the shoe was on the other foot.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of people, I mean, quite often an outsider makes a film in Scotland, the Scots are the butt of the joke. So, initially I had to take a lot of those, the original writers had to take a lot of those aspects out because they weren't Scottish. And then you get down to, I lived in the Highlands for many, many years. And what you find is that we're British. Everywhere's mixed up nowadays. People are from everywhere. So it's the same in the Highlands, people come from everywhere. So they're not just Scottish people. So that we have a sense of reality of where we are in the world. We have our own very strong sense of identity, which we've always had. It's one of the oldest countries in Europe, continuous countries. Um, so I think to reflect what is really happening there, like the hotels are owned by a lot of English people, and because they've got out of London or whatever, and they enjoy living there, and they really contribute to the society. But quite often that is cut out with other people. Scottish filmmakers tend not to want to put that in. They want to look, oh, we're all from Glasgow, or we're all. Anyway, so I think it was a truer reflection of what the Highlands is really like, and what you would expect if you went there yourself. Well, I mean, a lot of people go there to look for Nessie after all, don't they? And drink the whiskey and what else? Oh, buy some tartan. They love to wear the tartan. Oh, no, those little tartan skirts.
Oh
You've
yeah,
seen, you've seen, all sorts of people wear them, and then depending on what your sexual orientation, and it works on you, right?
makes sense, and it makes sense. But
Yeah.
like when you watch a movie, it was very this movie in particular. It was a family movie based in real life society. But one of the cool things is how I always want to ask, is this based off something that you experienced in maybe your real life. I know how you talked about basing it in realism because there is a character in there who goes there for the job. And pardon me how I'm wording this question because I don't want to spoil anything, so I'm being very careful. So she goes there to go to work, but is so transfixed and turned on by the people, the culture, and everything else that she kind of, like you say, fall in love with the culture. So I'm very curious, is that from a real event or is it just something that you've noticed by living there for so long?
Well, I've seen Americans come. I first started going to the Highlands when I was 16, and used to go and meet girls actually. But and quite a lot of them were American back then. But there is it's a sense of romance, and what you find is that people go there, and because it's such a romantic place, they get into the bubble, and then we keep them in the bubble. Have some more whiskey, or like come to our house, or like, oh, you don't need to go home. Change your flight. So it's a welcoming society. We like strangers. We welcome strangers. So I think anybody that goes there. I mean, the only script I've ever written was about one guy who went to Scotland and said he hated it. He hated it. He never wrote a word of music and everything. And his name was Frederick Chopin. So I wrote a script about that because I was interested. The only person that ever heard it didn't love Scotland. So I think we have this thing where we're proud of our country. We want to share it with others, and we're not like get out of my backyard or anything like that. So we want you in our backyard. We want you to stay because there's so few of us. Our population's been about the same for the last 100 years. It's not gone beyond 5 million. It goes like this, a couple of thousand here and there, but
Right.
otherwise, stays the same. So if you come to Scotland, we want you to stay. And actually, during Nessie, there was an American girl there who fell in love with one of the guys working on the film. She's still there. She married him, and she moved lock, stock, and barrel.
Man, it's weird
She
how
was
art
just a
imitates
tourist.
life. It
Yeah, yeah,
life kind of imitates art in a way.
yeah. He romanced her. He took him out on his boat onto the loch, and they made her go skinny dipping and all that sort of stuff. I don't know. I think I'm beyond that technique now. Yeah.
Well, I mean,
uh,
well, but this was such a good film, and I'm seeing a lot of influence at playing it because when you talk about the one person that does not like Scotland, you kind of showed that a little bit in the film as well.
yeah, yeah.
Um, but I
And he's American. Yeah, yeah.
but I'm very curious. I know you've shown this. It's been out for some time, and how how was the feedback from the screeners and some of the people who have seen it? I mean, I loved it, but what are you getting back from the people as they watch it? Because in a weird way, I mean, this is a lot of people's first introduction to Scotland as well.
Yeah, I think no, it's been positive the whole time. Always surprises me when I make a film at people's reactions. Sometimes you make a film, oh, nothing's going to happen, and then you get surprised, and then sometimes you make a film and nothing does happen, right? But with Nessie, very, as you say, it's a family film. It crosses all ages. I think you can sit down with the grandchildren or the grandmother, and I think they'll get something out of it. So in that sense, it's a feel-good movie. It's like something that you would not feel embarrassed inviting anybody to watch. Yeah.
Right.
So I mean, these are the hardest kind of films to make. That's why Steven Spielberg's so successful because he can make these films that cross cross all generations, whereas Martin Scorsese can't. All right. So it's all about who that person is, and I think you have to have that in you as a person because you are what you make, and or is what you make who you are. So that's what I believe is it has to come from the filmmaker themselves. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you touched on that because that leads into my next question, Robbie. What did you want the audience to take away from this? When you set out to make this film?
I just want to share the country that I came from and the people and how where most places you go in the world people are like that. You could easily set this in a small village in America and you would have the same warmth from the people. It's like most communities are actually very welcoming, and but sometimes I feel as though the genres take it into, somebody has to be murdered or something, somebody has to be weird, or there has to be some horror. But I think there's more room in the world for these kind of stories. Okay, occasionally even I have to go and make an adult film just to prove to myself that I'm growing up. But otherwise, tapping into the child or the world that I think it's more taking a child's view of what life would be like if we were all nice to each other. And I think that's what makes family movies. And if you think about, I mean, I did puppet shows for many years. And so the puppet shows were always pitched at the 8-year-olds. So the 8-year-olds always had younger siblings, but there was always an adult around, the parent, a bigger brother or sister. So I think it's where you pitch your story, at what age group, and what age were you. I was happiest probably when I was 10. Well, I didn't want to grow up, right? I had Tim, who works with us, did all the color grading here. His son, yesterday, a couple of days ago, said he didn't want to grow up and he was 12. So I think it's that stage where we cross over from child to adulthood.
Right.
And if you can tell a story and just still reach the child before they become an adult, then I think you have a wider audience. Anyway, that's what I was attempting to do, as well as, prove that Nessie may exist, who knows,
Well, and I think you did it in a way because there's still that childlike magic in this film, and with real world elements where the doubt is there. The doubt is there because, you get older, you get jaded, you see things. However, you flip it, like you said, hey, wait, Nessie, there still may be something. So as long as that part of you don't die, I guess we'll be kids forever,
Yeah, but even the villagers had given up believing in it. Yeah.
Yes.
And it was only money that it prompts them to kind of solve the problem, right? Yeah.
Well, it's without giving out too much of the movie, it's two problems. It's almost like two means to an end, because you need one for the other. Because if the promise of money wasn't there, there would be no reason to bring that up. And vice versa, you're dealing with a village who lives and dies off tourism, and your best, attraction is the thing we don't even know that's there.
Yeah, yeah. It's like emperor with no clothes, right?
There
It's
you
like
go.
they're all coming here, but where is the attraction? The attraction is it's in their heads,
Theater of the mind.
It's funny. Someone close to me took his wife and his two kids up to see Loch Ness this summer, and I said to him, "What were the kids went on the loch?" And they go, "Oh, were they interested in looking for Ness?" They go, "No, they just want to eat their ice cream and everything." I said, "What about your wife?" "No, no, she was chatting to some other tourist." I said, "Tim, it was you. You were looking for Nessie, weren't you?" And he went, "Yeah."
There you go.
Yeah.
I can't close with a better story than that. This movie is great, and I recommend anyone see it. I know I can spend more time with you, but I'm up against it. I'm looking at the clock. I'm getting the get out signal. But Robbie, it's always a pleasure speaking with you. You are welcome back anytime. The movie is
Okay,
called
thank you.
Nessie. Please check it out wherever on demand or streaming services you have.
Okay, so namaste, thank you, and once again, nice meeting you, Sam. Yeah.
Nice meeting you as well, Robbie. Have a great one.
All right, thumbs up.
All right,
Yeah.
bye.